Okay, clerics. So our cleric is a little bit different from the barbarian. It's a little more intricate, but again, a great starter or beginner character for anyone to play, and never a bad character to have in your party, regardless of the dungeons that you will be crawling through. So to start with the cleric's traits, a cleric adds half of its level, rounded down, to his attack rolls. A cleric adds his full level when he attacks undead creatures. So for an example, a 4th level cleric attacks at a +2 regular or a +4 undead. So in my notes, I'm going to write this so that I don't forget it. I'm going to write attacks plus level. I'm going to do rounded down, normal, and then plus level to undead. It's very important to remember these little caveats. It's little things like this that are going to change the dynamics of how you play and how you navigate the dungeons. All right, so we are level 1. So half a level 1 is technically a 0 rounded down. So we're not going to get any added benefit to attacking regular monsters. However, we are going to get a +1 to attacking dead. So actually right next to the attack thing here, I'm going to do +1 to undead. That way it's kind of right there in my face and I can see it. All right, the weapons and armor allowed. For a cleric, armor allowed is light armor, heavy armor, and shields. Weapons allowed are hand weapons, two-handed weapons, and slings. Starting equipment for our cleric. We start with a light armor, a shield, and a hand weapon. Now, a cleric may trade in his shield and hand weapon for a two-handed weapon, much like the barbarian does. Clerics usually prefer crushing weapons because the chances of meeting skeletons and skeletal rats in dungeons are pretty high. It's always good to diversify your weapons throughout your characters. Have some slashing, have some crushing. That way there are advantages to certain characters' attacks, which will help you navigate your combat much more efficiently. So we are going to start with, again, starts with light armor. So like the barbarian, we're going to write that in here. Light armor is a +1. Armor, lights, is a +1. So that will, to begin with, that will give us a +1 in defense. All right, the next choice is a shield and a hand weapon. Now, if I were creating 4 characters for this, I would most likely give the cleric a shield as well, depending on what the other 2 characters are. However, one thing to keep in mind is that one character in your party must always be carrying a lantern in order to navigate the dungeons. So we are going to forego the shield on the cleric so that she can carry the lantern. If you are the lantern bearer, you cannot use two-handed weapons, nor can you use a shield or a hand weapon. So you have to consider everything that any equipment that you have is used in one of both hands. So that will keep our defense at a +1. And for weapons, we're going to choose a mace. We're going to choose a crushing weapon. Of course, that will be flat. It's because it's a hand weapon. So there is no advantages on attacks quite yet. Again, as you level up, so do your attack bonuses. All right, clerics have, differently from a barbarian, clerics have spells. So a cleric may cast the blessing spell up to 3 times per adventure. Real quick, to look up the blessing spells. Your spells can be found on page 49. This spell removes a curse from a character. A curse is a game effect gained by stepping into a cursed room. Blessing will also remove other conditions, such as being turned to stone by Medusa. So in our spell scroll category here, we're going to write Blessing. And you can do this any way that you want, but we're going to do 3 squares so that I can check them off as I use them. Same thing down here, spells and scrolls. We have a spell of Blessing with 3 options to use it per adventure. A cleric may also use healing power 3 times per game. This power allows the cleric to heal a number of life points equal to D6 plus his level. The cleric may use healing at any moment, even during a fight, but he may not attack on the same turn in which he heals someone. Cleric may use healing on himself or a friend. When clerics cast spells from scrolls, they add their level only if the spell being cast is Blessing. In all other cases, the spell from the scroll is cast as if the clerics were level 1. So if you're casting a Blessing spell and you're a level 3, you get to add a +3 to it. If you're casting a healing spell or a fireball spell, something else, you are only going to cast that at a +1. Something to keep in mind. So, healing spells. Let's go ahead and add these. Again, we have 3. All right, starting wealth for our cleric is D6 gold pieces, so let's go ahead and roll. The cleric, she also rolls 2 gold pieces. So we're going to add that to our information. All right, and finally, our cleric's life. The life is 4 plus the level, which means that the cleric will start with 5 life points. Now, for the sake of moving things along appropriately, you would at this point be able to use any gold that you rolled to purchase additional items starting on page 16. From bandages to, again, to a lantern, to rope, potions of healing, so on and so forth. Because we're only creating these 2 characters, we're going to just assume right now that we had enough gold to give the cleric a lantern so she can have her lantern. So we're going to mark off a lantern for the cleric and just be done with that. So those are the basics of creating your characters in 4 Against Darkness. Once your characters are equipped, you've got their level set, their life set, their attack set, so on and so forth. You are ready to dive into your first dungeon. So check out my next video in this series on how attacks, defenses, and monsters work. I'd suggest doing that before crawling your way into your first adventure. Thanks for watching.